$85. Tonight on NewsWatch Ole Miss, it's been over 4 days since Winter Storm Landon swept across the country, and thousands in Memphis still have no power. Coming up, we'll take a look at the recovery efforts from the storm that just missed the Oxford area.
With most students back on campus and fewer online classes, old parking complaints are resurfacing. The response from the Office of Parking and Transportation is straight ahead.
And tensions at the Russia-Ukraine border continue to ramp up as world leaders met today to prevent a conflict that American officials say could begin any day. We'll update you on the situation coming up. NewsWatch Ole Miss starts now.
Good evening and welcome to NewsWatch Ole Miss. I'm Sarah Gale Myers.
And I'm Hannah Baker. This Saturday, the Oxford Fire Department responded to a house fire on the County Road 120 near Dollar General at around 9:30 p.m. One resident was inside the house when the fire broke out, and that resident later died from the injuries. Lafayette County Coroner Rocky Kennedy said he cannot release the victim's identity. An official at the fire department says the cause of this fire is currently under investigation by the Mississippi State Fire Marshal's Office. We will keep you updated as we learn more about the investigation.
Here in Oxford, we may have missed most of last week's winter weather, but just an hour up the road, thousands of residents are still waiting for the power to kick back on. Brandon Richard with Action News 5 has a closer look.
This sound echoed through many Memphis neighborhoods Sunday. Crews working to clear tree debris from Thursday's ice storm. But many people, like Patricia Gatlin, would rather hear the sounds so many of us take for granted. The fridge, the coffee maker, the TV, the heater, the sounds of home. Like tens of thousands of others in Memphis, Patricia hasn't had any power in 4 days, and she feels like she's been forgotten about.
We went out Thursday morning before 9 o'clock, and we haven't seen anyone in our neighborhood yet. and they're still not here.
Not one MLGW truck?
Not one truck.
Patricia says that she spent the last few days caring for her 83-year-old mother, who lives just a few doors down and who is also without power. With overnight temperatures dipping below freezing, she dresses in layers and also makes several trips to her car throughout the day to try to warm up.
I come out here at least 10 to 15 times in one day because it gets so cold that the crown of my head hurts and my chest starts hurting.
While MLGW leaders plead for patience, promising everyone's power will be restored soon, Patricia says the utility should have been better prepared and should have learned from previous storms like the ice storm of 1994.
But this one was nowhere near as bad as the 94. But we're suffering the same consequences. So what have we learned as a city?
It's a question many are asking, especially those still without power 4 days later.
Many residents have little hope that the power will be back on by the end of the day.
While we're on the topic of electricity, the Tennessee Valley Authority may not be providing power to potential customers involved in growing and distributing medical marijuana in the state of Mississippi. Tate Reeves signed a medical marijuana bill into law last week, but it will be months before growing facilities begin operating. However, marijuana is still illegal at the federal level. The TVA must adhere to the federal drug laws since it is owned by the federal government. The TVA provides power to Oxford Utilities and the Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association. DUT did not specify if companies it supplies power to can then provide power to marijuana growers and distributors. Today, a Tennessee lawmaker proposed a bill which would make the volunteer state the 38th state to legalize medical marijuana.
In other health-related news, according to the Centers for Disease Control, as of yesterday, 64% of Americans are now fully vaccinated against COVID-19. And about 27% of the population are now boosted as well. Only 1 in 5 of eligible Americans above the age of 5 have not received any dose, and Alabama is now the only state with less than half of its residents vaccinated. Mississippi hit 50% vaccination just last week.
Across the country, coronavirus cases are trending down, but the Magnolia State is seeing a slight uptick. With over 16,500 new cases over the weekend, an average of over 5,500 per day, which brings the state case numbers to almost 770,000 since the start of the pandemic. The state also identified 35 new deaths dating back to January 14th. The total number of Mississippi deaths is nearly 11,300.
This morning, a 14-year-old in Lee County was arrested in relation to a threat made against a school in North Mississippi. Lee County Sheriff Jim Johnson said that the threat did not name a specific school or target, and the suspect seemed to have no means of carrying it out. But Johnson also said that any threat made towards a school, student, or staff is taken seriously and will be prosecuted to the fullest extent. School districts including Boonville and Corinth have increased law enforcement and are still communicating any developments.
At the state capitol, Mississippi is considering joining the list of states who offer scholarships and tuition waivers for young people who have been in the foster care system. Last week, the State House passed Bill 1313 to create the Fostering Access and Inspiring True Hope Scholarship Program, FAITH. This program would be for ages 14 to 26 and would provide tuition waivers at community colleges or universities. It would be open to the people in the foster system at the time they apply, as well as those who spent part of their teen years in foster care. It would also include services to guide students as they apply for college. The bill, which moves to the Senate, could cover costs for up to 150 people and eventually expand up to 900.
Back on campus just 3 weeks into the semester, students are already voicing their complaints about campus parking. NewsWatch reporter Peyton Taylor went to find out students' concerns and what the Office of Parking and Transportation had to say about them.
Received a ticket on campus lately? You are not alone. Many Ole Miss students started the winter semester complaining about on-campus parking. For some, the logjam in parking has resulted in long waits, late class arrivals, and parking tickets.
Around 8 a.m. there is spots to park in, but after that there is hardly any parking and everyone's racing around to get the first spot.
This is just outside the Pavilion Parking Garage, which is one of the many options near everything on campus where you can park, such as the Turner Center and the Tad Smith Coliseum. And while there are over 17,000 parking spots on the campus grounds, many students say they still find themselves daily circling the lot looking for that right spot.
I have to park in the garage, which is horrible. It makes it so much harder. I'm like late to classes all the time. and there's never any spots. I got to park at like the 5th floor. It just takes forever. Ole Miss parking's horrible.
We'll like carpool sometimes to class, or like some of us will drop the other off at class and then like vice versa, pick each other up because like we can't find parking.
Ole Miss Parking Office Director Samuel Patterson said in an email that popular commuter lots such as the Ford Center fill up quickly and that students should consider choosing lots with available parking spaces or use park and ride buses. The parking office also has future plans for another parking garage along with more daily parking spaces. For NewsWatch Ole Miss, I'm Peyton Taylor.
If you find yourself facing a university parking ticket, you can pay it or appeal it on your parking account using your My Ole Miss login, or appeal it in person at the Office of Parking and Transportation in the South Campus Rec Center.
Finally, the Sally McDonald Barksdale Honors College is hosting their annual spring convocation tonight. This year's speaker is Dr. Maria Mayer, who is a primatologist and director of the Science Communications Initiative at Florida International University in Miami. She is a Fulbright Scholar and Emmy-nominated wildlife correspondent for National Geographic. Convocation begins at 7:30 p.m. in the Ford Center. The Honors College is also hosting a research poster symposium before convocation. Student research will be on display from 6:30 to 7:15, also at the Ford Center.
President Biden met with the new Chancellor of Germany in the White House today as just one of a series of meetings to find a solution to the rising tensions between Russia and Ukraine. The details on those meetings coming up, but first, here's a look at your current conditions.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere will bring us wireless emergency alerts. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know, wherever you are.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Mom! I got it. What are you doing in there?
I got stuck.
Are you a dog?
I wouldn't do that. Have you seen the pliers? Where'd you find those?
It's not your birthday.
Sorry.
Bye, Grandpa.
Bye, Grandpa.
Take care of yourself.
What are you doing? What are you looking for?
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the moment I knew. His future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Today saw a series of meetings among world leaders as they continue to work toward a diplomatic solution to the mounting tensions between Russia and Ukraine. But countries including the United States continue to prepare their militaries for the possibility of war. CNN's Karen Kaifa has the latest.
As tensions remain high along the Russia-Ukraine border, the West is urgently looking for ways to rein in Moscow.
The whole question of Kyiv is preoccupying both of us, and the whole of Europe is at a critical crossroads here.
Looking to cool the temperature, French President Emmanuel Macron became the first Western leader to sit down with Russian President Vladimir Putin since the standoff over Ukraine began.
I think that today's discussion will start off at least a process of de-escalation.
While in Washington, President Joe Biden welcoming new German Chancellor Olaf Scholz to the White House.
Working in lockstep to further deter Russian aggression in Europe.
The new chancellor's willingness to confront Moscow over Ukraine has been questioned, given Germany's reliance on Russian energy supplies.
It's an important meeting at a very, very important time.
The very diplomatic efforts are being conducted with the hope that enough unified pressure on Moscow will force a détente. As 4 sources say, new intelligence shows some Russian officials worry a full-scale invasion would be costlier and more difficult than the Kremlin realizes.
Any conflict would be protracted, it would be painful, it would be sadly bloody, and it would be a genuine mistake for Russia to pursue this as a course of action.
But satellite images provided to CNN show Russia isn't backing down, instead building up more advanced deployments near Ukraine's border in Belarus and Crimea, and setting up infrastructure, suggesting Russia may be preparing for a longer-term conflict. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
An American delegation made up of government officials from the Departments of State, Commerce and Treasury plans to travel to Europe this week to coordinate sanctions if Russia does invade Ukraine. And today, President Biden advised any Americans in Ukraine to leave the country.
In travel news this morning, the Federal Aviation Administration grounded all of the Frontier Airlines flights across the nation, canceling about 20% of the airline's Monday flight schedule. The FAA says that the flights had to be grounded because of a technology issue that has now reportedly been resolved. The stop was lifted this afternoon and no further issues have been reported.
It was a busy morning for Frontier Airlines. Before seeing their flights grounded, it announced that it will be merging with Spirit Airlines in a move worth over $6 billion. The new airline would pass JetBlue and Alaska Air to become the 5th largest domestic airline. The name of this new airline is still up in the air. The CEO of Spirit Airlines, Ted Christie, says customers can continue to expect the low fares. Both Spirit and Frontier suffered losses in 2020 and 2021, but showed high revenues in the last quarter, just 2% off from pre-pandemic levels.
In technology news, Samsung is adding some new material to its devices. The company has incorporated plastic from repurposed fish nets into its newest Galaxy devices. The company says that 640,000 tons of fishing nets are discarded into the ocean every year, trapping marine life, damaging coral, and even ending up in our food and water sources. The new material will be officially revealed Wednesday when the company launches the new devices.
Another Japanese tech giant made a big announcement today. Nintendo's Switch video game console reached an impressive milestone. The product's sales have surpassed the lifetime sales of the company's Wii console. The Switch has made the company over $100 million. The Japanese company also announced it sold 18.9 million Switches in the 9 months leading up to 2021. Although that may seem significant, Nintendo sold around 24 million units the year before, and it's only been on the market for 5 years.
Coming up in sports, head coach Kermit Davis and the men's basketball team have been in a bit of a rut lately, and their loss to Florida over the weekend proves just that. And the women's basketball team is looking to add another dub to the win column as they prepare for yet another top 25 matchup. Find out more up next in sports.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
On October 15, 2017, 2 words changed the course of history. The words we wrote that day are a part of a longer and even more powerful history.
The wounds become scars.
Things are changing.
We really need everyone's voices.
Today, we all have a chance to write another chapter, powered by everyday activism as simple as joining a march or reading a book, written to a permanent archive on a public blockchain.
Because it takes a sea of us coming forward to demand change.
Because no matter who you are, you can act too. The end of sexual violence begins with this next act.
Times during class, and I tell her, do talk to him. And it's like, oh, ew.
Worried about your friend, but don't know how to reach out?
You could say, how are you, or get a fake tattoo. You can ask with an app if it works for you. You could chat with them in VR, it's all good. If you think you should check in, yeah, you should.
Whatever gets you talking. Reach out to a friend about their mental health. Whatever gets you talking. Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org.
The Rebels weren't able to close out in Gainesville as they fell to the Florida Gators in overtime. Ole Miss was in the driver's seat in the first half thanks to 9 offensive rebounds. They headed into halftime up 30-21. Jarkel Joyner returned to the court for the first time in over a month due to a lower back injury. He put up 7 points in his limited minutes. The Rebs struggled in the second half, only scoring 8 points in the entire half, a season low for Ole Miss. Florida clawed their way back into the game to send the game into overtime. Despite the valiant effort, the Rebs fell to Florida 62-57. Staying onto the court, the Lady Rebels are again looking to put some top 25 matchups under their belt against LSU tonight at the Pavilion. Both teams are sitting at 18-4 and 6-3 in the SEC ahead of tonight's game. Ole Miss is coming off a big road win over Mizzou last week. Mizzou is regarded as one of the best shooting teams in the country, but were very limited against the Rebels. Coach Yo and the rest of the team are hungry to stay relevant in the SEC, and a big win over number 15 LSU tonight can get that done. You'll be able to watch this matchup at 6 p.m. Central Time on the SEC Network. And the women's basketball team isn't the only team making big strides this season, as the women's track and field team held on to their top 25 ranking for the 3rd straight week to start the indoor season. The Rebels were ranked number 8 for the first 2 weeks before dropping to number 11 after an off week from competition. The men's indoor track and field team fell this week after their off week, dropping out of the top 25 to number 28. Since the rankings began in 2008, this is the 39th time in program history that the women's track and field team has appeared in the poll. Heading over to pro news in Las Vegas, Alvin Kamara, star running back for the New Orleans Saints, was arrested on battery charges soon after the Pro Bowl. The incident occurred Saturday morning when a man had an altercation with Kamara waiting at an elevator. The police report noted that Kamara punched the man 8 times before Kamara's associates began to stomp on the man more than 16 times. Kamara then went to play in the Pro Bowl that night before he was met shortly after the game and taken into police custody inside Allegiant Stadium on Sunday night. Kamara has already posted bail and is due in court on the charge March 8th of this year. The Houston Texans announced that they will be promoting their current defensive coordinator, Lovie Smith, to be the new Houston Texans head coach. Smith emerged as a late candidate to replace David Coley, who was fired after only 1 season. This will be Lovie Smith's 3rd NFL head coaching job, following stints at the Chicago Bears and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He has spent 15 seasons in the NFL and is best known for his 9 seasons in Chicago, including reaching the Super Bowl. He will join 4 other head coaches around the league as the 5th minority coach among the 32 NFL head coaching positions. The 63-year-old head coach will have a tough assignment ahead of him with a very struggling Texans franchise, but the Houston franchise has put their entire faith into him. And that's all I've got for sports. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at rebel_watch for the latest sports updates.
Thanks, Ruby. Do you have a friend that you keep thinking you need to reach out to? Well, today is the perfect day to do it, so go buy some stamps and get mailing. Find out why up next on NewsWatch Ole Miss.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why did the girl ask the mushroom to dance? Because he was a fun guy. What do you call a pig that knows karate? Pork chop. So how does a tissue dance? Put a little boogie on
it. Freedom. It's at the core of who we are. The freedom to live without fear, to jog where we please, to wear a hoodie. The freedom to breathe. Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
These are more than just the sounds of a safe place to go after school. These are the sounds of interest being ignited and of mentors making an impact. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we don't do just one thing. We do whatever it takes to meet the needs of every kid who comes through those doors. Because whatever it takes is what it takes to build great futures. Great futures start here.
We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are distinguished as a Carnegie R1 top 2.5% research institution. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
Valentine's Day is just a week away, but before you write a letter to your Valentine, take some time today to write a letter to a friend.
It's National Send a Card to a Friend Day, so wherever it is you buy your greeting cards, make sure you pick up envelopes and stamps to celebrate with the people you love. And don't use them all just yet. You may want to buy some extras in case you plan on sending a note to your Valentine the old-fashioned way.
I actually have some friends tonight that are making Valentine's cards for some St. Jude's kids, so that'll be really fun.
That's so sweet. That's a good way to get out of your inner circle, too, and share some love.
Exactly. That's all for tonight. For NewsWatch Ole Miss, I'm Hannah Baker.
And I'm Sarah Gail Myers. You can find our social media accounts at NewsWatch Ole Miss for the latest updates on Ole Miss and beyond.
Thank you, and good night.